Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the My Football Writer YouTube channel. And it's hard to have not got this certain red and white and blue flag up behind me after what went down at Carrow Road this afternoon. But I will take it off. I will be a little bit more reasonable and we'll be smart and, well, not smart. You know what we're like on the channel. We love a bit of nonsense. So I thought I'd all give you that with the United States of America flag. But let's get into the serious talk while I try and find the words to describe my love of Josh Sargent, really, and I think every Norwich's fans' love of Josh Sargent. So just a frantic end to a game that was not so frantic. Really, quite a dull game of football really to watch. And you look at straight away Norwich's possession stats in the game, 42%, I believe it was at the end. If someone wants to correct me, then feel free to do so. But that was Norwich's lowest of the season. Their lowest possession stats of the season, where they played mainly the game with a back five. It was a back three at times as well, but majority of the match it was a back five. Very isolated midfield, quite an isolated forward line as well. Really didn't get many opportunities within the game to get a goal. They had a fantastic one, Norwich, within the first 15 minutes of the match. A fantastic save from Wildsmith to deny Sargent, and then Sienats on the follow-up put it wide. But West Bromwich Albion, in credit to them, they were the better side on the afternoon and during the game. It's just one of those matches where, unfortunately, the better side doesn't win the game. But because we are a Norwich fan channel here, it was fortunate for us. So we will gladly take the 3 points and a clean sheet, which for a side who concede a lot of goals, believe it's 55 conceded after 39 matches, they needed that. And it was very close to not happening. Again, Angus Gunn, of course, there's been a lot of goalkeeping issues with Norwich City as of late, even with Angus Gunn himself. But the save he makes at the end is fantastic. And the reaction he got from his teammates, they engulfed him, hugged him, and they're just full of praise. McConville clearing one off the line. He only played about 4 minutes of the match, and still he had to almost save his new side to getting all 3 points. So really had to dig deep and get themselves over the line, Norwich. But it's what they did. They got all 3 points in a game in which they had to if they were serious about their playoff push, and it shows that they are. It's a really big win at home, getting a clean sheet as well against a really top side in West Bromwich Albion under Tony Mowbray, who have got some brilliant players as well. But at the end of the day, Norwich's brilliant player in Josh Sargent did what he always does. 18 goal involvements now in 25 matches. It's phenomenal. Norwich City will do really, really well to keep him over the summer. There's been doubts and question marks over his future. There was, of course, the quotes that came up in the Pinkun during midweek about he's just sort of keeping his options open come the end of the season, and he's going to look at what different things he can do for himself. But scoring a last-minute goal, whipping his shirt off, he got booked, he won't care, shows he still does care. He's still here to fulfill his mission as a Norwich City player of trying to get them back into the Premier League and giving it another shot. But that was just phenomenal, really. But going back to really sort of the game overall, again, Norwich very isolated, as I said. Their lowest possession stats of the season. They weren't creating many opportunities. West Brom, which I said I went off on many a tangent about Sargent and his goal. We'll get onto that goal in a second. But West Brom, a lot of brilliant chances, albeit they had 2 or 3 in the first half where Angus Gunn makes some sublime saves. There was 2 or 3 in today's game especially, which were top draw and really helped Norwich stay in the game, really, in a match in which it wasn't really neither team were not in it during the entire match, but West Brom by far, in terms of momentum and the chances they created, should have come away with a bit more. But if it weren't for Angus Gunn in the Norwich City goal, who, again, because of the goalkeeping statistics and doubts that Norwich have had over the entire season, and you still look at the stats now, they don't make great reading for Angus Gunn or any of his goalkeeping counterparts. that was huge for him to have such a great performance, and still shows what a brilliant goalkeeper he can be on his day. Again, a player who is coming to the end of his Norwich City contracts in the summer, as opposed with Sargent, who's got a little bit longer. But there's not, by any sounds of it, that there's been talks for Angus Gunn to renew that contract. But if he can pull off performances like that and keep Norwich just about in matches, and they can go and score late goals, then sign the deal if you want, Angus. But of course, that's not up to me and the fans. That's up to Johannes Torp and his coaching staff. But let's get on to that goal from Sargent. It's brilliant. It's Josh Sargent at his brilliant best. Nunez, I have to give credit to, came on as a second half sub. When Norwich, in the start of the game, you looked at their three-man midfield of McLean, Sorensen and Slimane, quite a defensive-minded midfield. Perhaps that was Torp going with that to perhaps just help him out in those midfield areas where he played the back five to try and counteract the wide men of West Brom. They did it at the Hawthorns, and it worked well against Tom Fellows and getting a clean sheet, albeit they gave away a few decent opportunities. Norwich still got a clean sheet, and it worked for them. But even there, Sorensen in there with McLean and Slimane, it was an interesting choice of midfield. You could argue, maybe on paper, when Norwich fans looked at it for the first time, and there wasn't really that creativity there, which showed really until Nunez came onto the pitch. They didn't have that forward-thinking player who can just spot a teammate in front of them, or they can become the link between defence and attack. So Nunez coming on, and Marcondes, who of course didn't start the game. There was a lot of big questions about that, but ultimately it paid off. Nunez comes on. It's a fantastic through pass to Sargent. He just even though Sargent is quite left of a central position when he receives the ball, Nunez's pass is right to him. It's just straight through the defensive third. Sargent, neat little heel flick to put Kyle Bartley on his back in the penalty area, and then it's a really nice finish. Perhaps the goalkeeper, Will Smith, is unlucky because it just sort of squirms under his body, but Josh Sargent won't care. Norwich City don't care. So they end up going 1-0 up in the 92nd minute. Carrow Road pandemonium, the Barkley and Snake Pit going crazy. There's bodies all over the place. But going into the bigger picture, really, that Norwich needed a win. As I've said, they needed to win this game if they were to have any chance of looking as if they were going to break into the top six, with now 7 matches to go and an away trip to Plymouth Argyle coming up, who are rock bottom of the league, but at home are miles better than they are on the road, and they can compete with any team really in the division when they play them at home park. So you look at it in the bigger picture, Norwich now are only 5 points off the playoffs, 7 games to go. They've got 13 wins and draws and defeats after 39 matches. They're right smack bang in the middle of the table, perhaps deservedly based off those results. You know, it's bang average results, but Norwich aren't in a bang average position. They're 5 points off, as I've just said. And you look at some of the games for the teams above them and around them, Norwich going to bottom of the league away from home. Yes, they've only won 4 of 19 away matches this season, Norwich, but this game feels like a 6-pointer. Well, it will be for both teams. Plymouth need to win to try and keep any slither of hope alive to staying in the division. Norwich need a win to keep any slither of hope of potentially getting out of this division and going up to the Premier League, which would be just incredible if they managed to do so. But both teams in that game really need a win. But if Norwich can go to Home Park, where they lost 6-2 last season, they battered Plymouth 6-1 at home this season a few months ago. If they can go to Home Park and get a win, it's right back into the balance of things. Norwich could just be 2 points off the playoffs, which would be fantastic. a great position to be in. 2 points off the playoffs with 6 games to go. Yes, they still have a trip to Burnley to worry about, and they've got Middlesbrough away to probably be concerned about as well. And they've got all the teams above them who can win all their games or maybe drop points in a lot of them. It's really big. What was the biggest thing for this game for Norwich, which is very easy to say, but the biggest thing was getting 3 points, and they went and got it. They have given themselves that little fighting chance. Johannes Hovtorp said before this game, as a coach, he has to believe his side can get in the playoffs. Otherwise, why is he there? And with a win like that, with a result like that, was going to say a performance like that, but he made it very clear in his post-match press conference that is not how he wants his team to play. And if they had to get 3 points by any means necessary, they've done so. Football is a results-based business. And even though Norwich didn't go about the prettiest way of doing it, and maybe not the Johannes Hovtorp way, I still think he should be delighted with that. Of course he is. It's 3 points and a clean sheet, as I've said many a time. And it's huge. In the grand scheme of things, a really, really massive result. And who knows, go to home park, get a win, things could just happen. It could be a very, very interesting time indeed. But what did you all make of it? Norwich City getting all 3 points against West Bromwich Albion, a massive result for them in their push for the playoffs. Can they go to home park and keep up the push, get another 3 points, and it could just blow the whole race wide open, and there'll still be 6 games to go? Let us know in the comments section down below, and we will see you for the next video of ours on the My Football Writer YouTube channel.